visualizing the realism of life and actuality. Fuck who's the baddest, a person's status depends on salary, and my mentality is money orientated. I'm destined to live the dream for all my peeps who never made it.
What's good? What's good? AHumbleSoul, we checking back in, man. We got another installment of chapters, man. You know what I'm saying? This time we taking it to the East Coast, Brooklyn to be exact. You know what I'm saying? East New York, and we placing a spotlight on somebody who's considered to be one of the most underrated lyricists to ever grab a microphone. You know what I'm saying? We talking about AZ. Let's get into it.
BK, East New York. I mean, well, that name was for me being a part of the 5% Nation at a younger age, you know, coming up, East New York, early 80s, wanting to be a part of something. And AZ is, you know, Asiatic, you know what I mean? And my lightning gave that to me. Arm, leg, arm, head. Well, AZ, I'm most known for my lyrical content. You know, I've been down from the golden era, you know, as far as the East Coast, Mobb Deep, Biggie, Nas, Wu-Tang, you know.
So AZ, man, he's somebody who came up in the borough of Brooklyn in New York City. His mother, his sister, and himself, you know what I'm saying? He actually took a liking to poetry, experimenting with words and stuff like that, and writing his own raps. And he also will go to like different block parties and stuff and see people, you know, DJing, and how everybody was just so connected, man, from hip-hop music and just the culture, the graffiti, the break dancing, so on and so forth. So all of that had an impact on him growing up and really motivated him to start writing raps, you know. Something that's worth pointing out, man, is that AZ actually went to the same high school as Jay-Z, you know, Eli Whitney High School in Brooklyn. It was a vocational school. It ended up being closed down, man, but while they were attending the high school together, it's an interesting fact, man, is they battled one day in the cafeteria, man, at a lunch table. You know, AZ said in an interview with Sway that it wasn't anybody who actually was declared a winner during the battle, but they did trade verses, man. AZ was actually in Jay-Z's first video, I believe. They at the table playing Monopoly. He's sitting right next to Jay-Z, you know, when they decide to start playing for real money, you know what I'm saying? Biggie was at the table too. So, you know, during high school, AZ is really starting to perfect his rhyming, and you know, he eventually links up with Nas.
Nas was introduced by a cat that was in my building that knew him and knew me. You know what I'm saying? It was a rap thing on a phone, you know what I mean? We politic. I liked his vibe, he liked my vibe. It was a bunch of cats on the phone at the time. I think Akinelli was one. I don't know if Large Professor was one, but it was like a bunch of cats, and it was like a hip-hop cipher. And me being from Brooklyn, him being from Queens, the same things that was going on out there was going on for my hood. And I just felt his vibe out of everybody, and we locked in and just kept politicking. You know, one thing led to the next, and he was working on the album way before I was even thinking about doing an album, and he invited me, you know what I mean, to the studio. It wasn't even like nothing was premeditated. The beat was on, I'm sitting there vibing, the weed smoking in the air, you know, and my man Elias did the Life's a Bitch beat, and I was just singing Life's a Bitch, and then you die, not even anticipating on being on the album. And he was like, yo, I like that there, man, you got to put that on the track. And I did that, and everybody liked it in the studio, and we went from there. So
AZ's appearance on Life's a Bitch really placed a lot of eyes on him, you know, and it actually got him a record deal. You know, he didn't really have to go around shopping demos and nothing like that. And the following year, after he appeared on Illmatic, he released his debut album, Do or Die. You know, to this day, it's considered one of the greatest hip-hop albums, you know, from Rather Unique to Gimme Yours to More Money, More Murder, More Homicide. One of the standout singles was Sugar Hill. For those who are not familiar with Sugar Hill, man, that's a neighborhood in Harlem that was popular, or really got popular and got its name during the 1920s. when wealthy black people would come to that neighborhood to live, man, you had everybody from Duke Ellington to Thurgood Marshall, so on and so forth, who lived in that neighborhood, man. So, but it ended up down the line becoming a gold mine for hustlers, you know what I'm saying, especially during the crack epidemic, you know, during the 80s and whatnot. And one of the people who was, you know, in the midst of all of that was a guy by the name of AZ Faison. And people are probably familiar with him from his story, you know, being shared in the film Paid in Full. You know, his character was portrayed as Ace. AZ was somebody who came up in the, you know, Sugar Hill neighborhood of Harlem, and he was doing this thing on the drug side of the game. You know, he was a kingpin. He took offense to AZ, first and foremost, AZ going by the rap name AZ, and then releasing the song Sugar Hill. He ended up suing AZ's label EMI, and they eventually settled out of court, man. AZ, he actually didn't allow that to stop him, man. He still kept pushing forward, and like around 97, he linked up with The Firm. Initially, it was Nas, AZ, Foxy Brown, and Cormega, but Cormega was he was replaced by Nature. They signed to Dr. Dre's label Aftermath and also Interscope Records, you know what I'm saying? And they put out this album, you know, and then it had beats on there from Dr. Dre, track masters, etc. But yeah, they only put out one album, man, and then, you know, everybody went back to doing their solo stuff. The following year, you know, AZ put out his sophomore project, Pieces of a Man. And, you know, he went on to release a handful of other projects, jumping from major label to major label, man. I think he had like 4 or 5 different major label deals, man. I guess they really couldn't figure him out. But his last album on a major label, for what I understand, was in 2002 when he dropped Asiatic. So a couple years after that, man, he decided to start his label, Quiet Money. Ended up linking up with Koch Records and put out his first independent album, man, which was AWOL. That received a solid response, and from there he didn't look back. You know, he started releasing multiple other projects. And while he was releasing projects, man, it's actually it was a point when 50 Cent brought him up and dissed him, you know, for his albums on his song What If, and he was pretty much saying that his music was garbage, that he was putting out BS, man. He had lost his talent. But AZ didn't just, you know, accept that, man, and he went back and dissed 50 Cent on his song Royal Salute. It wasn't too much more than that, man. 50 said his line, AZ responded with his track. That was that, man. But when he was asked about all of that in an interview, he was pretty much saying, like, you know, that's what 50 Cent does, and if I can get a tenth of his fan base, man, then I'd be straight for life.
What else, man? What else?
Hey, that's a big one.
Let's sing this shit right here, Coney Island. Let's go.
Sit back, relax, get your contact, sip your cognac. Let's all watch this money through this laundry, man. Sneak attack, new cats and bad work, top dollar. Fact, touch my, and I'll react like a rock waller. Who global late, we play for high stakes, gunpoint, catch them and break. Unless some time would take, no escape. The Corleone, fettuccine, Capone, forming your own zone to get kidnapped, tapping your door. We got it sold. The firm model walls unknown, lawyer tone, face it. Homicide cases control, aristocrats, politicking daily with Jim the Master.
Around 2012, AZ initially started talking about releasing his album Do or Die 2, you know, the sequel to his classic debut album. But it took like almost 10 years, you know, so from 2012 to 2021, you know, it's a nice gap from there. But AZ released his latest album, Do or Die 2. Had some nice features on that album, man. Idris Elba, Jaheim, Conway, Lil Wayne, Dave East, Rick Ross, T-Pain, you know, nice production and wordplay, so it was well received. It reached #2 on Apple Music, just right under Drake. You know, that's a big deal. He passed Kanye up. That's saying a lot about how people really embraced and appreciated his latest album, man. It was highly anticipated, you know what I mean, long awaited, but it seems like it lived up to his expectations and showed that, you know, AZ hasn't lost a step when it comes to being lyrical and creating timeless music. Shout out to everybody tuning in and rocking with A Humble Soul, man. Hope y'all appreciate it and enjoyed this installment of Chapters. If you messing with the video, man, make sure to hit the like button, drop a comment, you know what I'm saying, share the video and all of that, man. Check out the links in the description below the video if you want to support the platform. Until next time, I'ma holler at y'all, man. It's your guy Lewis checking in 100.